Welcome to Fitness Casual. We help you ditch diets and build habits no matter how busy you are, even in the summer. I'm Andrew Hayes, and with me is the quotable Cap S.
Hi, everyone.
I'm sure people quote you. Maybe.
Maybe. They tell me
I
I'm a
quote
voice
you.
in their head. I have things I say on repeat.
It depends.
It depends. It's a big
Nice
one.
veggies. That's one of my favorites. We wanted to do a nice veggies t-shirt, but then we realized that nobody would buy that.
Yep.
So we haven't. It'll go in the garbage with the It Depends t-shirt. Are you a big we're talking about some quotes today that we think are really amazing life lessons. Are you a big reader? How are you spending your spare time?
So I love to read. I just don't do too much of it anymore, but I have been a huge reader in the past. I'm a big, more of the self-help, nonfiction vibe. But I do love a good quote. I love a good book with very, things I remember that I share with other people. But I'm not actively reading as much. But I'll say I try to do like maybe one book every 3 months now. That's kind of the pace that I'm at. So it's getting in there. It's slow. And I'm not going to make an excuse, but I think it's just hard for me to fit in on top of everything else. But, I do really like to read.
Yeah, good. It's not. Listen, if it's not a priority, it's not a priority.
It feels like embarrassing to admit. I think that's one thing where people are like, I read a book every 2 weeks. It's like, wow, that's amazing. But people I know who are really into reading also aren't into like other hobbies. Like that's like,
Right.
I do hobbies that take a lot of my time. Reading is not one, and those people just read a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. One of my favorite TV shows is Happy Endings, canceled after 3 seasons, kind of like a more up-to-date Friends, although it's pretty outdated now. Great show to stream if you need a comedy to binge. And there's one episode where one of the characters goes on a date and she just hits it off right away. And she's like, oh, it's just so nice to go on a real date and not sit here and like pretend to read every time I meet somebody. So I do think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
I definitely have people, like my wife in particular is like a pretty voracious reader, and she's in a book club of people who read even more than she does. She's on Goodreads, and we have that super popular books channel in our All to Life community where people are always sharing stuff, which is amazing to me because I don't, which is somewhat ironic because I was an English literature major and read a ton in college, and maybe that's part of it, but I just have a lot that I like to do, and I really like, learning about fitness and nutrition. And same as you, Kat, like you're always continuing your education, whether it's like formally or just podcasts and stuff like that. And to me, I just enjoy that more than I read a lot of business and nonfiction, but I'm big on like this could have been an article. And I'm reading a 600-page book right now for my book club, and I'm like, this could have been 100 pages. It's good, and I don't mind it, but it's like, why would I have to spend 10 hours reading it when I could have spent one? That's 9 hours doing something else. So
That's true.
But we are going to take some of our favorite quotes and talk about them all today and how they can apply to you. I do think the right quote in the right context at the right time can actually change your life. And so we might do this episode more than once, but at this very moment, we are putting together some of our favorites. So I will start it off with one that if you're a parent and you've ever had a call with me, you've probably heard me say this to you, which is don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Another way to say that's maybe less extreme, would be self-care is family care, or you can't pour from an empty cup. There's lots of ways to say this, but it's exactly what it sounds like. I think we see this a lot in moms, quite often in dads, or honestly just selfless people who might be caretakers elsewhere or who really pour themselves into their job. Don't forget that you are important too. And when I got my first CPR certification and first aid certification, Kat, I'm sure you've done this too. One of the first things they say is like, you're no good to anyone if you're dead. And so don't like run into a burning building just because you got your first aid certificate. You know what I mean? Like know your limits. And I think especially if you're a parent, but honestly, just life in general is like, take care of yourself. It's really important. If you're really suffering that much just to help someone else, like what kind of example are you setting? And like, what is the trajectory that you're on? What do you think is going to happen in 5-10 years? Are you really doing what's best for the people around you by letting your health suffer?
Yeah, I think I talk about people pleasing a lot, but this is exactly what's going on there. Or people at work, people who work so hard and like no one cares. They're taking advantage of you, or they don't
Mm-hmm.
realize you're even suffering doing what you're doing, and you think you're making this big sacrifice to like help everybody or be there or whatever, and meanwhile they don't appreciate you and they have no idea that this is even like really hard for you to do. That is a terrible place to be, you know. So I think this is such a good one. And yeah, the more at the expense of you to help other people or whatever, like they're probably not even getting major benefits out of it, and you always have to take care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself, you'll be able to help others in a better, more meaningful way that they will also probably start to recognize instead of just taking advantage of you.
Exactly. And so I'd say this: don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. It really breaks down into two parts. One is awareness. Are you doing this? Probably. I think we all do it in some capacity, but you know, how guilty are you? And then the other piece is having a plan. A lot of times I think people just knee-jerk reaction. Their day's so busy, they just are constantly putting out fires of people around them, and you're just not putting enough thought or planning into what you need and what you want, which segues into our second quote, Kat.
This quote is, discipline is remembering what you want. I love this because I'm very much a disciplined person. I think motivation is very short-lived and not very helpful, and the thing people tell me they have nothing of, and I'm like, cool, you actually don't need motivation, which is exciting. You just need to have discipline, and if you don't actually want something, I think it's really hard to create discipline to do it. And I think this is a tricky spot because a lot of people can say they want things. You know, we all want to, you know, be in shape and eat really well. But if you cannot do it, I actually would be like, do you really, really want this? Because people who are disciplined are very clear on their deep, meaningful goals. They know what they want. And you understand that short-term comforts are short-term. You know, you need to go to the gym, but you'd rather stay home under the blanket. Cool. If you know about what you want or who you want to be, you are the person who gets out of bed and goes to the gym, and then you can come back home and go under the blanket. But you just have to understand that the short-term comforts are not going to get you where you want to be. And discipline is not about restriction or punishment. I think a lot of people, discipline's like a dirty word, or you think of like a Marine drill sergeant or something. Like me being a highly disciplined person comes off with this edge of like unrelatable and, you know, maybe rigid, a lot of structure, and like I fully disagree. I just know what I want in life, so I do the things to help me get that done. And I'm very connected to my why, or like why I want to do what I do, or why we're building this business, right? Like we work really hard at it, and it's not because we every single day want to, but we know the end result we're looking for, so we just do the thing. And if you can remember that discipline is just remembering what you want, like in a moment where you are distracted by a temporary comfort or having a bad day, emotions are high, just keep that in mind, and it kind of could zap you out of whatever you're feeling, just to reconnect to your deeper goals. And some examples would be, you know, meal prepping on a Sunday because you know you have a busy week ahead of you and you want to make good choices and not have to think. It's not because you have to meal prep on a Sunday to be successful in your diet or whatever. You don't have to meal prep ever once in your life. But people who know that you're going to be busy, so this week is going to be rough, so let me get it out of the way now, that is remembering what you want. Or you work out at 6 a.m. because you know it's going to set you up for a nice day and you're going to feel a lot better. It's going to help with your energy levels. It's not because you actually want to get up at 5 to be at the gym by 6. Or, you know, someone who can say no to that extra drink on a weeknight because you want to get up tomorrow to go to the gym at 6 o'clock. And you know if you have that drink, it's going to make that a lot harder. So you're thinking about yourself doing a workout successfully and feeling good to say no to that drink. That is discipline. It's not because you don't want the drink, because you probably do, and everyone does, and it's fine. But it's just, you know, keeping in mind what you actually want helps you make better choices.
I love it. This applies to me a lot with my sleep. I used to drink a lot more. And one of the things that really helped me reduce drinking was just noticing how horrible my sleep was, which then impacted my next day. Like not even being hungover, obviously that, but even just, you know, 2 beers or something, getting poor quality sleep, waking up groggy, being more impatient, being less motivated. Like the whole day is knocked off. And I was like, well, this sucks. Like I want to have a fun day where I can see friends and be around my kids and, you know, work on all of the stuff I want to do. Like maybe I don't want this extra beer. Maybe that just isn't. And so that is a great example, Kat, of like discipline is not, being like a Navy SEAL where you just have zero pleasure and you just run around like grumpy all day saying no to everything. It's just about putting a little bit of thought into where you want to go. And so that will help you make the right choices, which I think is a fantastic segue into quote number 3, because you don't need to be perfect while doing all of these things. And quote number 3 is, you can't achieve perfection, but will perceive Can't achieve perfection, but will perceive excellence along the way. I don't know anyone with a perfect diet. Not you, Kat, not any of our clients. There's really no such thing. I think our clients maybe are now educated on what that looks like, and definitely were not before. But no one hits that day in and day out, and you really shouldn't, I don't think, because it's just going to hold you back and make you be hard on yourself. And same with going to the gym. Like, you're not expected to get up 7 days a week and go to the gym for an hour and a half and PR every time. Like, that's just not really what being healthy and fit is about. It's just about making a little bit of effort towards being better maybe than you were yesterday. 1 drink less a week, or a little bit more fiber than you used to, or a little bit closer to your protein goal. That is how you Jesus. That is how you perceive excellence along the way, is by adding these little habits over time. Kat, anything to add to that?
I would say I am a perfectionist. I guess probably not a surprise, but this isn't because I think I'm perfect or I think I do things very well. That's kind of how I have always been wired, but I have never been at a place where I felt like anything I did was perfect. But when you get to a place to be like, the habits and all these little things make me feel a lot better, it just helps a lot with that perfectionist mentality, which always leaves you thinking you didn't do enough, or you are missing the ball. Like, I could come up with 100 ways I dropped the ball this week, but I don't think that way, and I focus on all the things I did well. And a lot of people are wired to think about the negative things, or the things they did terribly, or I hit all my habits this week, but the scale went up a pound, so none of that mattered. And that's like the complete opposite way of thinking. You should be happy about the habits, and then when you see the scale number, that doesn't matter all that much, because you know what you did that week.
That's right. By the way, just a side note, some of these quotes are attributed to people. I find, generally speaking, that if a quote has been around long enough, it's misattributed left and right. Yeah. That one's technically Vince Lombardi, but I don't think so. And some of these are like 2,000-year-old Chinese proverbs and stuff. So we're just like, we're not going to get into who said it. It doesn't really matter. We're saying it now, and you should believe it. But I totally agree, Kat. And I think that's a great segue into number 4 about the mind-body connection.
All right, number 4 is, the body achieves what the mind believes. So I'm a huge mindset person. I'm a huge thoughts are things person. I truly believe like thoughts create your reality. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but it's also not, if you've heard of the placebo effect, there it is. Like, there's a science behind this. There's amazing stuff. Like, there are people who think they got a knee operation, but they didn't, and they get up and they start walking. And they did not. Nothing is different about their knee. They were crippled yesterday, and now they're walking because they thought they had a knee operation. That is unbelievable stuff. And, there are so many incidences of like things that are almost seem like miracles on this level, but we don't need to get that crazy. But if you just believe you can do something, your body will be able to do it. And if you believe that you can't do something, you also definitely will not be able to. And if you think you can build muscle or get stronger and lose fat, and you can do these things and you can keep it off, then you probably will. And if you tell yourself, I suck at barbell squats, then you're probably going to suck. Why would you get better if you have that attitude? You don't need to be good at them, but if you say, I'm trying and I'm getting stronger every week I'm adding a pound to my barbell squat, right? That's not that much weight, but you're doing it and you're telling yourself you're getting better. Or people will always be like, diets have never worked for me. That is a huge thing, that if you believe that in your brain, which I think people legitimately believe that to be true, then they're never going to work for you. Like, you really have to change that. And you can also turn that into something like, I have been trying to find a sustainable approach, and I will. You don't need to find it yet, but if you say, I'm looking and I will find it, you also probably will. And that's, just the stuff you're telling yourself in your head. And it's, I think sugar is a huge one. People be like, I cannot possibly live without sugar, and I can't stop eating it. Sugar controls me. I am powerless to sugar. Like, we say crazy things about sugar, but if you just say, like, I'm building a routine that doesn't depend on sugar to feel good, or I know sugar's a habit and it's not actually something I need, what a powerful way to reframe that in your brain. to actually, and then you might notice you stop needing sugar just as much. And a lot of this is you have to change your thoughts before you feel it. Like, you do not need to believe it to be true to start saying those things in your head. And this is why mantras exist. This is also why quotes exist, because they're things that make people feel better, even though you know you're not living life like that, but you hear these quotes and you're like, yeah, I love that. Why aren't you executing the things you like about your quotes? So like, that's your mindset and your pattern. So always take note of what the thoughts in your head are telling you, and then just reframe that, because it will shape the reality that unfolds in front of you. And it might sound very woo-woo, but if you want to just go look into like more placebo effect type things, it's insane how just self-belief and mindset can really change someone's body and appearance and health, like all sorts of things.
Yeah. I mean, on a tactical level, I would say most people who we talk to about our coaching program are like, I've tried everything. It's my hormones. I need to go to the functional medicine doctor and do hormone replacement therapy. And I'm not going to lie and say that doesn't exist. And you maybe should go to the doctor. Why not, if you can afford it? But I would say, Kat, we've done blood work now for hundreds of people. Like, how often do we see someone like major red flag? There's nothing we can do to help you. You're too far gone. Go take a medication for the rest of your life. I think that's quite rare, actually. And so the more you tell yourself that story, and I blame social media for this as well, of like telling everyone it's their hormones and their metabolism's broken and all that nonsense, you actually probably just don't have some of the missing pieces in place and doing it long enough and, you know, all that stuff. And that actually you're very capable of doing this on your own and living a better life. You just are being told / telling yourself this story that your body's broken. But I'd say that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
I've one other note on that. We have a business coach, Kat. We have many, I guess, actually, but one of them, Jason, we were meeting with him last fall, and I was asking about, you know, the tactical stuff or this and that and finding clients, and he just drew a little square on a piece of paper like the size of a credit card, and he said, "This is you." And then he drew a huge square like the size of a refrigerator box, and he's like, "This is where you need to be." And it's like that, honestly, that blew my mind. And it was just, so much has changed since that conversation of just like, oh, I get it now. Of like, I've always been thinking small and acting small. And it's just amazing what we've been able to achieve. And honestly, outside of the business too, just thinking like in a small container. And so this is kind of an extension of the quote that Kat mentioned, but like I would do the same thing for you. Like, draw 2 squares on a piece of paper and put yourself in the big one of like all the stuff you're capable of. You want to run a marathon, you want to, you know, be the whatever you want to do. Like, I guarantee that you can get there. Just start thinking that you can. And I'm sorry if that sounds crazy, but maybe you should spend some time thinking about it, because I totally believe it and it worked for us.
So true. Well, part of my reading in the past, a lot of it was really inspirational stuff from people who accomplished insane things, and they only did it because they believed in themselves or wanted to try. And I find that very admirable. That's like, this person is not that much different than me, other than they tried and they thought they could, and then they did it. So I can do the same thing.
That's right. Which is a great segue into the next one, which I believe is attributed to Kat Best from an earlier podcast.
I do love this one.
I don't think you made this up, but you did say it, and I had never heard it before, and I love it, which is, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And I think this is a little tricky because we don't shame people, and everyone's on a very long journey, and you have mental triggers and physical triggers, and it can be really hard to overcome where you are today. But I think it's really important to not only play the victim and recognize that no matter what has happened, you are capable of achieving better things. You just have to kind of take ownership of that. Kat, this is your quote. What do you want to add to it?
I think about this all the time, and I think it's just really powerful. And it also speaks to saying, like, we've had a collective of experiences from childhood or whatever that shape things that have unfolded in your life, and you can recognize that that happened to you and it's not your fault, but now you can, with that awareness, you have to do something about it. And I think that is very empowering, and it also lets people go like, all right, what can I do about this now? And a big part of like victim mentality, or people who are stuck in a poor mindset and they're never able to get better, or their self-esteem is always terrible for their whole life. Like, they just are not taking responsibility for where they're at. And one of the big mental shifts that happened with me is probably more around like my mid-20s, when I really started to like improve my gut health and all this stuff, was just recognizing everything that happened in my life was my fault, 100%. It's actually kind of fun to be like, oh, that happened, my fault. Oh, that happened, my fault. Everything is your fault. The good, the bad, whatever, like everything kind of has to do with you. Some choice you made let something unfold, you know. You can also, like, this can be a little dark sided, but it just is like, if you choose to walk down a street and you get hit by a car, technically that was your fault. It's your choice. And it sucks. But if we think about it that way, like, a lot of this comes down to our actions then create an effect. And that effect creates more things. But it all comes down to some choice you made at some time. So just recognizing that, or being like, I played a role in that. Or if you are overweight and you're 45 years old and miserable and you hate your life, you better believe that's, you have something to do with that. Maybe other people had a factor, but you could be like, I take responsibility for ending up where I'm at now. So now I can do something about it. A lot of people don't take that responsibility moment because it's a kind of a hard truth. It's kind of a hard realization to be like, you know what? I'm here because of me. Like, for me, my gut issues or my hormone issues, like my brain tumor situation, I actually go, that's fully my fault. That's fully, like, I had something to do with that. For whatever reason, I don't know what it was exactly, but I take accountability and now I'm going to do something about it. Because if I don't, no one else is. And then I can suffer the rest of my life, or I can try to get better and heal and, build confidence, whatever it is. Like, that is your responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, and you can, of course, get help. That is kind of the whole point too, is like, you're turning around something that maybe has plagued you for a long time. You can hire a therapist, you can hire a trainer, you can hire a nutritionist, you can whatever else help you want to seek. Taking that first step is sometimes all that matters, right? I've shared on the podcast before that asking for help is sometimes the hardest part. And so, yeah, you wake up one day and you're 45 and this has been kind of your issue for a long time. Well, taking that one step might be the hardest part, and then you're good. Now it's your responsibility. You're making progress, and it's fantastic. And that leads into our second to last quote, which is actually from Moana 2, shout out. I watch it, like, it's not that it matters. Maybe they didn't make it up. Which is, for some things, we're never really ready. And I honestly would maybe change that to say, for most things, we're never really ready.
Yeah.
And I heard a similar quote from an entrepreneurial standpoint, which is start before you're ready. And I love that for business too, in addition to fitness and nutrition. But like, however you want to phrase it, start before you're ready, or we're never really ready. I think that's like just the biggest hinder of progress sometimes, is just avoiding that first step because you don't feel ready. You just got to start. There's 4,000 examples of this, whether it comes to your diet, making one change, or signing up for the gym, but you haven't actually gone yet. Or maybe you go for the first time and you just look around and kind of make a plan, or text a friend that you want to join. Like, there's so many ways to just start, even if you don't feel ready. And then you're going to look back and be like, oh, now I'm an expert. Like, I blinked and suddenly now I feel great, all because I took that first step when I didn't feel ready.
Yeah, this is part of just how over stressful and we just have too much stuff going on in our world and I think a lot of that is social media makes us feel like we have so many more things going on than maybe we don't, but it makes us feel like, oh, I can't do that yet because I have to do, this other thing, or work is too busy, so I don't have time to do this. And like, that's just, you're never going to be fully ready. So I think this is a huge one. If you have an intention and you have a plan or a strategy, then you can do anything with whatever the constraints you have.
That's right. And if you can commit to something, sometimes that's all it takes as well. And so signing up for a race is one we hear a lot from clients. That was my story as well. It's like, I don't like running. I don't know how to run. I don't even really want to do this. I just know that, like, at the end of the day, I'll be happy I did. And so I just signed up for a marathon, and then I figured it all out, and it ended up being like a really big achievement. So, there's so many analogies there. And this is what we tell people too when they come in our program, is like, sometimes it can be a little daunting to be like, whoa, I'm going to work with you guys and like do all this stuff. And it's like, just do it. Just sign the paper, because then at the end, we'll all be high-fiving. Like, I understand that you're nervous, and that's totally normal, but committing is what it takes. Right. And that was the same for me. Like, I always tell people the story of, like, I remember walking into my office in my house and opening my Slack and messaging my manager, is like, can we get on the phone? So I could tell her I was quitting. And I was like, that day I will never leave my brain of like, I was not ready to quit my job, but I told myself that I was going to do it. And then I did. Yeah. And now I look back and I'm like, what an easy decision that was. But at the time I was like visibly shaking, And so sometimes you just have to know that this is what you want, even if it doesn't feel totally right, because you've had that conversation with yourself. Love it. All right. Last one is one that many people have heard before, but it's just so applicable, which is, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. Another way to say that is, you're never going to be less busy than you are today. Just do it. Just do the damn thing. And again, this is a conversation we have a lot with clients, like, oh, I'm traveling and this and that and my kid. And it's like, this is your life. It's never going to change. Like, you just got to start right now. This is the best time to start is right now.
This is massive for easily preventable chronic conditions that people develop that they think came out of nowhere in your late 30s, early 40s. It's been brewing for a long time. Your body, just by the time it's like visibly breaking down or you get symptoms, that's been under the surface for a long time.
Yep.
And a lot of people, address things when they have symptoms that are now making life really hard to do. But if you're preventing that from happening and you don't get that breakdown moment, that is huge. And we are really conditioned to not think about preventative health. Like, that's not anyone's fault, but it is now your responsibility. But it's not your fault. But now we know, like, all these conditions or inflammation and stress, we know the impact this has on the body. This isn't new information for anyone, but a lot of people will choose to address that stuff, or they know that their cholesterol each year is creeping up and up and up, and now they're not going to address it until it's incredibly high and they have to take a medication because they've just ignored it until that time. Or a lot of little things that are telling people, like, you're starting to decline, and then they wait until they herniate a back disc or blow out some body part, and now they can't move or have to get surgery to then start to care about themselves. And I see that all the time, and it makes me so sad because it's like all of this stuff is preventable. And some people will really normalize suffering, like extreme suffering, day to day, just because they're afraid to do something about it or they don't want to confront it. Like, lots to unpack there. But I think when it comes to like health and wellness, if you want to live well in your older years, which honestly these days is like maybe your 50s, people really start to be dysfunctional. Like, it's not like you're breaking down at 80. People will live long in very poor health. We want to be healthy for as long as possible. That starts very early on. So always get ahead of that. So anyone young listening, get on it now, but it's never too late if you're already like, wow, I missed the wagon, so why bother? Like, it's never too late. You can build muscle also at any age. There is no way like you can't build muscle. You just have to do the things to do it. But you can get fit whenever you want. I see really fit old people on Instagram all the time. It's amazing. And some of them started when they were in like their late 60s. They were not athletes their whole life. Like, you can really do anything if you just decide it's time.
That's right. I'm going to paraphrase this because I didn't prepare it, but I remember hearing on, I think it was Huberman Lab, study on VO2 max, which is a great measure of health and fitness, and we won't get into it, but they took college kids who just exercise, like, I think, infrequently, and then they took 90-year-old people in Nordic countries who cross-country ski, like, weekly, and the 90-year-olds had a better VO2 max than the college kids. So, like, age, not really an excuse. Of course, things build up over time, but, like, why not? Also, if you've already had something compounding over time, then get in front of it now so it doesn't get even worse. Today is the best time. It's not going to get any less busy. I can run through a quick recap. I'll just do all of them in a row. Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Discipline is remembering what you want. Can't achieve perfection, but will achieve excellence along the way. The body achieves what the mind believes. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. For some things, we're never really ready, and the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is today. Kat, any other quotes to add?
One of my favorite personal ones is "Do no harm, take no shit."
Ooh, I like
it's
that.
very much a mantra, cat-best mantra in my head.
Wow, okay. Put that on a t-shirt with nice veggies.
Oh, they exist. I've seen them. I used to have it in a little poster in my room.
That's really good. I like keep moving and you'll never stop. I think it's a good one for any age, but especially as we get older. All of us. I'm getting old too. Well, you can find more amazing quotes from Kat on Instagram at @CatBestWellness, and you can find me on Instagram at AndrewHayesLife. Join our Alta Life community. We can share some more quotes there, and have a great rest of your summer, everybody.
Bye, guys.